Hey everyone, let's solve question 1407, top travelers. So the question asks us to write an SQL query to find the distance traveled by each user. The question goes on to say we need to return this result ordered by travel distance in descending order, and if two or more users have the same travel distance, we need to report the result in such a way that the names are in ascending order, or basically they need to be sorted alphabetically. So let's look at the example and understand this a little better. So we have two tables, users and rights. So we can see that the distance is part of the rights table and the username is part of the users table. So clearly we can understand that there is some sort of join that we need to perform on these two tables to get the desired result. Right, so let's take an example. So let's consider the user ID 7 for which is who's Lee. So let's see, so Lee has traveled a distance of 100, a distance of 120, and a distance of 230, right? So that's a total of 100 plus 120 plus 230, which is 450, and that's what we have in the desired output, right? The answer is 450. But something else that we can see is that both Elvis and Lee have the total distance traveled as 450, but Elvis is returned before Lee in the results. And the reason for that is it's saying that the question asks us to return the results in ascending order of name if the travel distance is same. So here we see travel distance is same, and since Elvis comes before Lee in the alphabetical order, so Elvis is returned first. So let's go ahead and start writing the SQL query. So let's start with SQL star. Sorry, select star. So I always say you should start with select star and then replace the star with all the columns you need at later point. So select star from like I said, so you need both these tables, right? So let's say users u, your alias it as u, and left join rights, let's alias that as r on. So we need to join these tables on the unique ID. So I'm going to join it on the user ID. So user ID in the first table is this one, and the user ID in the second table is the user ID itself. So I'm going to say u.id equals r.id, sorry, r.user ID. So we are joining this, we are joining it on this and this, and now we have joined those. Now that we have joined those two tables, we need to find the question says to report the distance for each user, right? So in this table we see that there are multiple entries for each user. So 7 has 3 entries. So we would need to group these users together. So let's say group by r.user ID. And now that we are grouping by the user ID, the distance for all of these users should be aggregated. So we are trying to do 100 plus 120 plus 230. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do sum. That's what we want to return. We want to return the aggregate. So sum of r.distance, and we want that to be returned as travel distance, right? So return this as travel distance. There is a mistake here, but I will come back to that later. But we also want the output, the name to be returned in the result. So I'm going to say u.name. So name is part of the users table, so I'm doing u.name, and we are asked to order the result by order it by travel distance, right? They're saying order it by travel distance in descending order, and we need to order it by the name in ascending order if this travel distance is same. So to do that, we can just add the name as the second query. So I'm going to say u.name in ascending order. I mean, this is optional. By default it's going to be ascending. So first order it by travel distance in descending. If this is same for two users, then order it by user.name in ascending order. And this is going to give an error, but I will come back to that. Let's see. Okay, this is a different error. Okay, we have this. Okay, so the error that we see is that the output seems to match everything except this, right? Donald is 0, and in our output the travel distance for Donald is null. And the issue is that if you see Donald is 4 user ID, but there is no corresponding user ID 4 in the rights table. And what this essentially means is that Donald has not really traveled at all. So the total distance should be traveled by Donald should be 0. So that is what is expected logically, but since there is no entry for Donald, there's no entry for number 4 here, it's returning a null. So the easy way to fix that is use something called if null. So if null, if this is null, which it is for Donald, we're just going to return 0. So if null, returns 0, and that should be able to fix the query. I don't know why I'm getting this network error. Perfect. So let's submit our solution. And yep, I think it's accepted. And yeah, that's good. So thank you, everyone.